Are you tired of feeling confused and manipulated by the people around you? Do you want to gain a deeper understanding of human behavior and improve your ability to navigate the complexities of human interactions? Look no further. Welcome to our video on the laws of human nature by Robert Greene. In this book, Robert Greene delves into the depths of human nature and provides valuable insights on how to understand and influence the people in our lives. From historical figures to contemporary leaders, Greene uses real-world examples to illustrate the fundamental laws of human behavior. This book is not just a must-read for anyone looking to improve their relationships and succeed in their personal and professional lives, but also for anyone who wants to understand themselves better. Join me as we take a journey through the pages of the laws of human nature and unlock the secrets of human behavior. 1. Master your emotional self, the law of irrationality. In the laws of human nature, Robert Greene explains that emotions are not always rational and often cloud our judgment. To master our emotional selves, we must learn to recognize and control our emotions. This means understanding the root causes of our emotions and not allowing them to dictate our actions. A practical example of this would be a business leader who is able to stay calm during a crisis and make rational decisions, rather than getting caught up in emotions such as fear or anger. 2. Transform self-love into empathy, the law of narcissism. Greene also discusses the importance of empathy in human relationships. Narcissism, or an excessive love of oneself, can prevent us from understanding and connecting with others. To be effective leaders, we must learn to see things from other people's perspectives and to feel compassion for their struggles. A practical example of this would be a manager who takes time to listen to and understand the concerns of their team members, rather than only focusing on their own agenda. 3. See through people's masks, the law of role-playing. Greene also talks about how people often wear masks or put on a facade to hide their true selves. To be effective leaders, we must learn to see through these masks and understand the motivations of others. A practical example of this would be a salesperson who can read their client's body language and cues, and adjust their pitch accordingly, rather than assuming they know what the client wants. 4. Determine the strength of people's character, the law of compulsive behavior. Greene also explains that people's behavior patterns can reveal a lot about their character. To be effective leaders, we must learn to recognize patterns of behavior and use that information to determine whether someone is trustworthy and dependable. A practical example of this would be an interviewer who can identify patterns of honesty or dishonesty in a job candidate. 5. Become an elusive object of desire, the law of covetousness. 6. Greene also explains that people's desire for what they cannot have is often greater than their desire for what they can have. To be effective leaders, we must learn to create an air of mystery and exclusivity around ourselves, making ourselves more desirable to others. A practical example of this would be a politician who creates an air of mystery and exclusivity around themselves, rather than revealing everything about themselves and their policies. 7. Elevate your perspective, the law of short-sightedness. Greene also discusses the importance of having a long-term perspective. To be effective leaders, we must learn to elevate our perspective and look beyond the short term to the long-term implications of our decisions. A practical example of this would be an entrepreneur who looks beyond the short-term success of a product and considers how it will fare in the long-term market. 8. Soften people's resistance by confirming their self-opinion, the law of defensiveness. Greene also explains that people are often defensive and resistant to change. To be effective leaders, we must learn to soften people's resistance by confirming their self-opinion. A practical example of this would be a change manager who is able to get buy-in from employees by acknowledging their concerns and finding ways to address them. 9. Change your circumstances by changing your attitude, the law of self-sabotage. Greene also discusses the power of attitude in shaping our circumstances. To be effective leaders, we must learn to change our circumstances by changing our attitude. A practical example of this would be an individual who turns a negative situation into a positive one by changing their perspective and attitude. 10. Elevate your perspective, the law of short-sightedness. This law highlights the importance of looking beyond our immediate circumstances and understanding the bigger picture. Many of us get caught up in our own problems and struggles and fail to see the larger context in which we exist. By elevating our perspective and understanding the broader issues at play, we can make better decisions and take more effective actions. 11. A practical example of this would be a company is struggling with low profits and high expenses. By elevating their perspective and looking at the industry as a whole, they realize that the market is shifting towards online sales and they need to adapt their business model to stay competitive. 12. Soften people's resistance by confirming their self-opinion, the law of defensiveness. This law states that people are more likely to be open to our ideas and suggestions if we first confirm their self-opinion. When people feel heard and understood, they are more likely to be open to new ideas and perspectives. A practical example of this would be a manager wants to implement a new project at work, but the team is resistant to change. By taking the time to understand their concerns and confirming their self-opinion, the manager is able to soften their resistance and ultimately get buy-in for the project. 13. Change your circumstances by changing your attitude, the law of self-sabotage. This law suggests that our attitude and mindset play a crucial role in shaping our reality. By changing our attitude, we can change our circumstances and overcome self-sabotaging behaviors. A practical example of this would be an individual struggles with procrastination and constantly puts off important tasks. By shifting their attitude and adopting a growth mindset, they are able to overcome procrastination and become more productive. 14. Confront your dark side, the law of repression. This law states that repressing our negative emotions and impulses can lead to negative consequences in the long run. It's important to confront and accept our dark side in order to understand and overcome it. A practical example of this would be an individual has a history of anger issues but has repressed these feelings for years. By confronting and accepting their dark side, they are able to seek help and develop healthy coping mechanisms for their anger. 15. Beware the fragile ego, the law of envy. This law highlights the dangers of envy and the negative impact it can have on our relationships and well-being. It's important to be aware of our own envy and work to overcome it. A practical example of this would be a colleague is envious of a coworker's success and begins to resent them. By becoming aware of this envy and working to overcome it, the colleague is able to maintain a positive relationship with the coworker and ultimately improve their own performance at work. 16. Know your limits, the law of grandiosity. This law states that it's important to be aware of our own limitations and to strive for realistic goals. Grandiose thinking can lead to disappointment and failure. A practical example of this would be an individual sets unrealistic goals for themselves and becomes easily discouraged when they don't meet them. By becoming aware of their own limitations and setting more realistic goals, they are able to make steady progress and ultimately achieve success. 17. Reconnect to the masculine or feminine within you, the law of gender rigidity. This law suggests that rigid gender roles can limit our personal growth and well-being. It's important to reconnect with both masculine and feminine qualities within ourselves in order to become well-rounded individuals. A practical example of this would be a man feels pressure to conform to traditional masculine stereotypes and represses his emotions. By reconnecting with his feminine side, he is able to become more in touch with. 18. Seize the historical moment, the law of generational myopia. This law states that people tend to think that their own generation is unique and that the problems they face have never been faced before. However, history repeats itself and there are often similarities between different generations. A practical example of this would be during the 1960s and 1970s, the baby boomer generation felt that they were facing unique challenges and that the world was changing faster than ever before. However, if they had studied history, they would have seen that similar changes had occurred during the Renaissance and the Industrial Revolution. By understanding the patterns of history, they could have better prepared for the challenges of their own time. 19. Mediate on our common morality, the law of death denial. This law states that people tend to avoid thinking about death and the fact that all human beings will eventually die. By avoiding this reality, people can become disconnected from their own mortality and from the shared human experience. A practical example of this would be a young, successful business executive is so focused on achieving success and accumulating wealth that she rarely thinks about the fact that she will one day die. By meditating on her own mortality, she begins to understand the fleeting nature of life and starts to prioritize her relationships and her overall well-being. She also starts to connect with others on a deeper level, realizing that they too will one day die and that they share a common humanity. Thank you for watching our video on the laws of human nature by Robert Greene. We hope that you found the information shared in the video to be helpful and that you have a better understanding of the laws outlined in the book. Remember, these laws can be applied to a variety of situations and can help you understand the behavior of others and yourself. The laws of human nature is a valuable resource for anyone looking to improve their understanding of human behavior and relationships. So, if you're ready to gain a deeper understanding of yourself and others, give this book a read. We hope you found this video to be helpful and we look forward to seeing you in our next video. Thanks for watching.